200 plus. Can Shivraj Chauhan actually, can there be a change in the BJP strategy? Can Shivraj Chauhan actually be brought in to tie in the kind of coalition partners that the BJP will need?
Anything below 185, I would say that it will be difficult for Mr. Modi to be the Prime Minister. And in that case, why just Shivraj Singh Chauhan? You have a BJP President, Rajnath Singh, who comes from the biggest state in the country, who has very good relations with the Mulayam Singh Yadav and the Mayawati. Then suddenly the doors are open and there are all kinds of possible contenders that you can talk about. For Mr. Modi, and that's why the question that Radha raised becomes important, and that's the reason why I wanted to clarify that for your viewers. If the BJP has to have a hope of making Mr. Modi into its Prime Minister, not just a Prime Ministerial candidate, all these 4 states which have gone to polls, the BJP needs to make a sweep. 7 seats of Delhi, 29 seats in Madhya Pradesh, 25 seats of Rajasthan, all these states, Chhattisgarh, all states need to go completely to the BJP, and just on the basis of the assembly trends at least, it does look like as if it may not be such an easy task for the BJP.
Bhupen, actually, I just had a follow-up question to that because I heard you earlier in the week saying that the same voters of Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi would have voted for Narendra Modi if there was a Prime Minister election. And some BJP supporters may say that if it wasn't for Mr. Modi, then Aam Aadmi Party may have actually walked away with the victory and the BJP would have been nowhere. Can the BJP supporters actually raise that point?
You know, let me put it this way. And I've said this on our channel CNN IBN. I actually disagree with that finding of our survey, where we have said, where the survey at least has said that say 1 out of 2 voters of Arvind Kejriwal will vote for Narendra Modi at the center. None of us had expected Arvind Kejriwal to come up with this bounty. We do not know at this stage. Arvind Kejriwal remains an enigma. He remains a mystery. He remains an X-factor in Delhi's political cauldron. We do not know what will happen if Arvind Kejriwal decides to contest these 7 Lok Sabha seats. Yes, I agree that Indian voter is very smart. I agree that Indian voter realizes that there is a difference in voting at the Assembly level, Lok Sabha level. But I'm not quite sure at this stage whether that figure that had come up is really true.
It's glad to see internal disagreement as well, Lata, Anuj. Let me very quickly get wrap-up comments from our panel here. Let me start with you, Anil Singhvi. In exactly 30 seconds, what is this victory for the BJP going to mean as far as the economy is concerned, for the markets in the short term? And I'll go across the panel.
And will corporate India begin to invest?
Yes, I think it's a shot in arm of BJP. I think they've been hoping, and I think it's rightly said, it's an anti-Congress wave. Now BJP has to convert this into a pro-BJP, and I am of the opinion that unless they get 230, 240 seats, market will be very disappointed. We may still have a coalition government which is not going to really give us a very, very stable governance and stable policies on that. So I think it's very important for BJP, having got its 4 states, that they must work towards 230, 240 seats. And to answer your question, whether the companies will invest in India, I think they will start looking at it, because last 5 years have been very disappointing. Congress made a lot of commitments and a lot of promises, but they didn't deliver at all. And I hope, and what I have seen about Mr. Modi, I think he means business, and there will be a lot of enthusiasm coming back into the corporate world should they get 230, 240 seats.
Rajiv Chandrasekharan, same question to you. Do you think corporate India will now have the courage to invest, or is everything mothballed for another 6 to 8 months?
No, I mean, if you ask me, would I invest for another 3-4 months? No, I would wait. I would wait and watch. I think your question to Bhupen was a good question. Does this election represent an anti-Congress wave? I don't know if it's an anti-Congress wave, but it's clearly a rejection of this blind populist buy or vote kind of politics. There is a change afoot, and I think there's going to be a change in how governments approach economics and investment. We just have to wait for a few months to see that being unveiled. So I would wait and watch. I wouldn't rush in and invest just yet.
Punita, would people put in money now? FIIs, I mean.
Yes, I think they will. I think they will, because I think this vote is in favor. I mean, if you look at this vote, I think it's in favor of somebody who will implement and execute policies. India has got full of a lot of economists with lots of ideas, but very few people who actually can implement them. And I think that's what India requires right now, for the corporate sector to do well, for the corporate earnings to come through, for the economy to pick up. And I think we will see some hope amongst foreign investors that these things might happen, and this may be a prelude to that. But of course, we still have 6 months and a lot more needs to happen. But between now and then, I think there is hope.
Right. Last word from you, Sunil Alag. Do you think corporate India or financial investors will want to put in money in the hope of more certainty coming in?
You know, I'm a great optimist. Of course, they're going to put in more money, and you will see it flowing in, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a faith in the Indian consumer and the Indian opportunity that we are getting. And if you are thinking that you're going to have a third front come in, when I said on CNN IBN earlier, you had Mamta not sending potatoes to Patnaik, and prices of potatoes went up. Patnaik said, I won't send fish. Mulayam said, let's get rid of English. And Jayalalitha said, let's get rid of Hindi.
Okay.
What are we talking about? That kind of a government is just not going to arrive. Now the next year, whoever is coming in, whichever way you want to look at it, it may be a blip for 6 months, 9 months, but India is the future, and it looks like a decisive government will have to come in and play its role. So I see the investments coming in now.
All right. On that positive note, we have to take a break. Sunil Alag, Anil Singhvi, Punita, thank you very much for joining us. Bhupen, stay on with us with more guests joining in.
My Civil TransUnion score is 750.
आपको भी लोन चाहिए तो log on to www.civil.com and check your Civil TransUnion score to know your eligibility.
Get your Civil TransUnion score.
Can technology make us realize that millions of liters of industrial wastewater generated needn't really be wasted? Water recycling technology can help us reclaim and reuse it. It's ironic, isn't it? How a machine can see something we humans so conveniently miss at times.
Where do you want to go घूमने? Where do you want to go घूमने? आसमां को चूमने, पेरिस में झूमने, बड़े छोटे होटलों में चकाचौंध किया रूमने. Where do you want to go घूमने? हल्लू हल्लू नाव में, वादियों की छांव में, लंदन मुंबई सिंगापुर की गलियों में मौज ढूंढने. Where do you want to go? Let me show you a new way to go घूमने.
आ गया है मुसाफिर.com. सर घुमा देने वाली डील्स ऑन फ्लाइट्स, होटल्स एंड हॉलिडेज. सपने छोड़ो, दुनिया देखो. मुसाफिर.com.
घूम मुसाफिर घूम.
It takes decades of experience and pioneering innovation to put the very best investment choices at your fingertips, anywhere, anytime. ICICIdirect.com. Leadership at work for you.
Together, let's generate happiness. Let's raise the world to new heights. Let's carry our dreams further. At the heart of society, Toshiba Technology. For a growing future, Toshiba.
आप भी मानते हो कि अच्छे खाने
अब गहलोत
अच्छे रिटर्न्स पाने के लिए टाइम देना पड़ता है, तो आप मानोगे? अरे जानोगे तभी तो मानोगे. तो लॉग ऑन कीजिए janotomano.com पर from Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
High performance delivered. It's how we help our clients succeed. 60,000 calls a day for New York City. Delivered. $7 billion in online sales for Marriott. Delivered. Around the world, in every industry, across consulting, technology, and outsourcing, we deliver. Accenture. High performance delivered.
How was that?
It was magic.
Sing up life with magic moments, music CDs.
Ciao, Nini.
Ah, मेरा भाई.
Hi, Patsy.
Jumbo.
G'day, Cowboy.
Dude.
Look what the cat dragged in.
Eduardo Lucas.
Whoa. Mama, Nehoma. Hello, Mama. Namaste.
The wrong number?
Let me talk.
Bonjour. Привет. This is Dr. Flamenco.
This is TV18. And you're watching CNBC TV18.
Welcome back. You're watching Election Exchange. The electoral result is out and we're discussing the implications as far as the economy is concerned. Joining us now, Piyush Goyal, Rajya Sabha MP and National Treasurer of the BJP. Also with us, Jai Panda, MP from the Biju Janata Dal, and of course with me in our studio, my colleague Bhupen Chaubey and Lata Venkatesh. Piyush Goyal, you're clearly a man in celebratory mode this evening. Are you all set to storm Delhi? Let me ask you about the disappointments as far as this election is concerned, because I know the BJP is not particularly happy with the way that things have turned out in Delhi. The lessons, the disappointments and the silver linings. Let me start with you.
Shireen, in every walk of life, in every turn in our lives, we have some small signals. And I only see the Delhi election as a signal. But in the big picture, we have today 589 assembly seats whose results have been announced or are going to be announced. And we have the BJP leading or having won 406 out of them, which is a whopping 68%. Never before in the history of independent India has an assembly election generated so much interest. Never before in so many years has an assembly election given such a decisive verdict. 68%.
Sure, but what is the lesson, Mr. Goyal? What is the lesson? What's the lesson? But what is the lesson?
The lesson that we have to learn is possibly we have to make sure our workers don't get into complacency. One other lesson we have to learn is that the vote getting split, the anti-Congress vote getting split, is not good for the nation. It's a lesson which Jai Panda and other regional parties probably need to learn much more. The story, big picture is the country wants the Congress out. If we are at sunset now, I think it's sunset for the Congress. Okay. There can be no denying that. And the people will want a decisive government at the center. Hang on. Like they did in Rajasthan and
Hang on, Piyush Goyal. Let me. You're making an overture towards Jai Panda on this program. So let me get Jai Panda to comment. Jai Panda, Piyush Goyal saying that the country needs a decisive government and regional parties like yours should now decide to join hands with the BJP and give this country what it wants. Are you and the BJD willing to review your position as far as supporting the Bharatiya Janata Party is concerned?
Well, I don't know how much of an overture that was when he was saying that we need to learn lessons. I think on the other hand, the BJP needs to learn a very important lesson, which is that despite this massive anti-Congress wave, they could only get decisive mandates in 2 states, in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. And when it came to Delhi and Chhattisgarh...
are wrong, Jay. Yeah.
Well, maybe the figures are wrong.
One second, Mr. Goyal.
But let me finish.
Yeah.
Let me finish. I think clearly...
Mr. Goyal, yeah, let him finish, yeah.
Let me finish. So either way, Chhattisgarh has gone down to the wire and Delhi, they have not yet secured a majority. I think the bigger issue is very simple. I think there are 3 issues that we can identify here. One is clearly an anti-Congress, anti-UPA wave. Secondly, there is an issue of governance because those governments which are perceived to have performed, such as Madhya Pradesh, have got re-elected. And thirdly, there is clearly a question of status quoists versus those who want to bring in change. And that is the success of the Aam Aadmi Party, which I think we should all recognize and congratulate them. But I think my friend Piyush has to understand that India is a very large and diverse nation, and across the country, not everybody is a status quoist party. There are many regional parties which are also good at governance. So I don't think there are simple arithmetics here that he is looking at.
Straightforward question, Jai Panda. Are you willing to review? Are you willing to review?
Chhattisgarh figure is
let me get a straightforward answer. One second, Mr. Goyal. Jai Panda, straightforward answer. Are you willing to review your position as far as tying up with the BJP is concerned in the future?
Well, the party's Biju Janata Dal founder and president Naveen Patnaik has made it very clear that we are neither with the Congress nor with the BJP, I don't see any reason from today's results to review that stand. And if you look at the Delhi results particularly, there is clearly a pat on the back for a non-Congress, non-BJP alternative, which is what parties like mine stand for.
Yeah. Okay, well, Mr. Piyush Goyal, there's something which the markets will definitely want to ask you and the BJP. Who is your finance minister? You as the national treasurer, are you just one step away from the finance minister? Because the markets and India Inc. are just worried about that. Give us some concrete answers.
We are not in any stupid way discussing portfolios or discussing amongst ourselves all those things. I'm a very, very small worker of the party. I work at the grassroots. We have Mr. Narendra Modi as our prime ministerial candidate. India does not have the system of a shadow cabinet. When Mr. Modi gets elected with an absolute majority, which is not too far away in the future, he will decide his cabinet as is the right to.
I am convinced by the wave, but absolute majority is taking it too far. Jay Panda, would you say that, actually if you looked at the vote share performance, it's only in Delhi that the BJP vote share is lower than what it was in 2008. In all other states, in various degrees of intensity, the vote share has also gone in favor of the BJP. Now that's telling you something. You think that there is clearly a huge anti-Congress wave, but perhaps regional parties should take cognizance of the fact that BJP vote share has gone up in 3 states out of 4.
Yes, well, I think the message is very loud and clear that where you have a tripartite election, like you had 3 forces in Delhi, even with a lower vote share, even with marginal differences in vote share, you can have significant difference in seats won. But in terms of the other states, I think you have to again see that in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan, in Chhattisgarh, it was a 2-horse race. There was no tripartite race. And that is not the case throughout the country. If you look at the south, if you look at Tamil Nadu, if you look at Odisha, if you look at Bengal, it is not a 2-horse race. So please do not extrapolate these results throughout the country. Now Piyush was mentioning that there are 589 assembly seats and that the BJP has got 406, but that is because of a huge surge in 2 states, in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. Now that is a misuse of the principle of using averages. Thousands of assembly seats will be at stake when the general elections elect 543 members of parliament, and you simply cannot take an average of vote share across the country and say that this will give us 200 seats or more. It doesn't work like that.
Well, I'll just
Piyush Goyal, I know.
It's not only in these 2 states. Even in Chhattisgarh, we have got 50 seats out of 90, and we have got a plus 5% vote share. Rajasthan is a plus 15% as per your own channel. Madhya Pradesh is also, I think, a plus 10%. These are not small figures.
That's right.
We're not disputing that, Mr. Goyal.
That's right, absolutely.
We're not disputing that, Mr. Goyal. I know it's too premature to talk portfolios and all of that at this point in time, but this was the semi-final. This is done and dusted. You're now headed towards the finals in 2014. Let me ask you specifically in terms of the economic agenda that your party is going to articulate and sell as far as investors and the Indian public is concerned. Welfare economics. What is BJP's position going to be on welfare economics? We heard Narendra Modi speak in Rajasthan saying schemes nahi chahiye, subsidy nahi chahiye. What is the position going to be on welfare economics as we head into 2014?
Shireen, the BJP and its leadership, not today but for 60 years, right from the time of Deen Dayal Upadhyay, has consistently held that the country should stand on its own feet. It should be self-reliant. We need to empower the people, not make them dependent on doles. On many channels I use this phrase. The Congress is trying to do what the British did to the Chinese, make them dependent on doles like they did in China on opium, so that the people become impotent and not good to work.
No, but even BJP states, Mr. Goyal, even BJP states have subsidy schemes, have welfare schemes. Chhattisgarh had the food security scheme, sir.
May I complete? When the BJP was in power under Mr. Vajpayee, we created 6 crore, 60 million new jobs. The UPA failed miserably on that score, created some 2.7 million, 27 lakh jobs. Now, ultimately, in the long run, they may have shown some growth for the first few years, but jobless and consumption-led growth finally has done the economy in. Whereas the BJP, Gujarat, for instance, has the lowest unemployment in the whole country, less than 1%. That's Planning Commission data, not mine. Industrialization, growth of manufacturing, growth of all sectors, agriculture. Madhya Pradesh had 18% growth in agriculture. Gujarat has double-digit growth in agriculture. The BJP believes strongly in a strong economy. So I'll articulate 3 guiding principles of the BJP government when we come to power in the next few months. First of all, we believe we have to get government out of people's lives. What Modi ji articulates as minimum government, but maximum governance. We believe we should regulate to enable the people to get the best deal, but not get into people's life and harass them to no end, with tax authorities behind people, with every enforcement agency putting people under trouble. Second, we believe in speed, skill and scale, where we think that India now needs to take some quantum jump. If we look at solar power, we need to do a quantum jump in renewable energy. If we look at coal production or natural resources, we need to have some quantum jump with transparent processes, not favor a few friends and family. Third, we need skill development on a massive scale. India needs 500 million people to be skilled. This government and many other local governments have completely failed to skill their people. Whereas Gujarat has mapped out 5,000 vocations on which a massive skilling program is going on. So we are going to take up a skilling program nationally. And the third is what you had articulated. We believe in empowerment, not entitlement. Having said that, one more sentence. In the interim, you cannot ignore the reality that the poor have to be taken care of. So while we'll set the fiscal position right, while we'll strengthen the fisc, while we'll create new jobs, in the interim, I certainly believe we cannot let people go hungry. We cannot let malnutrition continue. We cannot let people be without sanitation. We cannot let them be without housing. So government interference, or let's say affirmative action, is a must in the interim. But the objective should be clear.
Mr. Goyal, I actually want the BJP's position directly on 3 or 4 issues that are facing the country as a handover from the UPA. What will your position be on the entitlements that are already there? Would you roll back anything on food security, anything on NREGS? The other position, they've already taken a position on multi-brand retail. Now, would you roll back that decision? And likewise on insurance, what would your position be?
Let me articulate on each one of those. As regards the entitlements already underway, if you look back, I have on many occasions on the floor of the House and on television channels and in signed articles in newspapers articulated this government has made a fool of the people. Every one of the things which the NDA government had started, where of course Jay's party was a partner with us, we had brought the Information Act. They converted it, calling it a right to information. We brought it the Anna Yojana, the targeted public distribution scheme, where we would give 35 kilograms. They changed it to a right to food. Every one of their actions is only a paper jugglery. They rebought the old line.
Mr. Goyal, I just want a yes or no from you actually, sir. I just want a yes or no. Will you roll back NREGS? Yes or no? Will you roll back food security? Yes or no? Will you roll back retail? Yes or no?
You know, life is not in a yes or no. MNREGA was started by us as a food for work program. Please bear me out. I have a specific idea and I've articulated it.
So you stay with it?
Manrega no, madam. Manrega should be converted into 2 programs, a skill development program and a viability gap funding program. I'm happy to articulate both of these if you have time. Manrega will become a powerful tool, not by filling holes, digging holes and filling them. We need to use that fund to skill people and make them useful for employment. We need to provide infrastructure, use that as a VGF, so that new infrastructure can come in, while at the same time providing jobs in creating that infrastructure. Insurance, our position is clear. We have told the government what we have in mind. If this government agrees with that, possibly you may see that happening sooner than later. Multi-brand retail, we are opposed to it. But having said that, on more than one occasion, I have publicly declared the BJP does not believe in retroactive amendments. If there is a law of the land, we respect that law of the land for past decisions. Prospectively.
I'm glad you're saying that, Piyush Goyal. I'm glad you're saying that.
No,
I'm glad you're saying that, but
but on so many other
I know, but other BJP leaders like former Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha have been cagey when it comes to actually committing on whether they will actually do a retroactive as far as multi-brand retail is concerned. But Jai Panda
has committed this also.
Okay, let me go across to Jai Panda. Now, Jai Panda, you're absolutely right. It would be naive to actually extrapolate this result and say that as far as 2014, the general elections are concerned, we're going to see exactly the same picture emerge. Let's talk about what regional parties are like yours are going to do in the interim now, in the run-up to the election. What are we likely to see as far as the regional parties are concerned? How are they going to see the BJP's victory? What, for instance, do you believe is going to be the mood as far as the Nitish camp is concerned? What is the mood as far as the BJD camp is concerned? How do you see the regional parties now reacting to the BJP victory?
First of all, let me belatedly congratulate Piyush and his party for having done quite well in these elections. I should have mentioned that earlier. But I think considering he's right about the anger against the UPA government's misgovernance. But considering that anger and considering the anti-Congress wave, I think they really ought to have done better. And that's the point I was making a little bit earlier. Now, he has made a point about governance of the BJP based on a couple of states like Gujarat and perhaps Madhya Pradesh. Here I want to point out that it is not the BJP alone which has given good governance in some states. I'm sure Piyush is aware that the #1 investment destination in the country today is Odisha. If you look at GDP growth rates, if you look at social indices, states like Odisha and states like Tamil Nadu have done extremely well. So the claim to good governance also comes from regional parties. And you asked me how we are going to see these results. Let me just point out, in Odisha, we've just had urban elections just recently ending last week, and the BJD has completely decimated all opponents, including the Congress and the BJP. So we are very sanguine about our prospects. And I don't think the markets ought to be as wary about regional parties having a big say, because please remember, every government in the last 24 years has been a coalition government in Delhi. Yeah. And parties like the BJD, parties not just in Odisha but other places, we will champion rural infrastructure. We will champion rural electrification,
Mr. Panda,
rural roads,
Mr. Panda, I'll have projects. Mr. Panda, just let me ask you this. In that case, why did Aslar Mittal withdraw their 50,000 crore project from Odisha? If that was the case,
let me explain. Now we have a milestones based procedure which ArcelorMittal made zero progress. But you must be aware that although there have been some delays, the POSCO land acquisition has recently been completed about 4 weeks ago. You must also be aware that in terms of GDP growth rate, while India has fallen to about 5% or less, Odisha is at double of that even this year. In terms of many other indices, states like Odisha, states like Tamil Nadu, states like Bihar have done extremely well. So please don't use an isolated example to try to disprove the statistics which are dished out not by us but by the Planning Commission and by international agencies.
Okay, by the way, Arvind Kejriwal is addressing press, and Shireen, the phenomenal achievement is that he's defeated Sheila Dixit by 26,000 votes and has got more votes than Sheila Dixit and the BJP candidates put together.
I think if one of the big headlines as far as this election is concerned is the underestimation of the power of the Aam Aadmi Party, Anuj, and I don't think that's just a Delhi-centric phenomena. I think this actually tells a story about what urban politics in this country could perhaps look like. Let's listen in to what Arvind Kejriwal has to say.
होता था गुंडागर्दी, अपराध, भ्रष्टाचार, गलत चीजें। पहली बार जनता ने ईमानदारी से राजनीति करने की कोशिश की और आज जो नतीजे आए हैं वो नतीजे ये दिखाते हैं कि जनता बीजेपी, कांग्रेस और इन पार्टियों की भ्रष्ट राजनीति से तंग आ चुकी है। और अगर ये पार्टियां नहीं बदली तो जनता इन पार्टियों को बदल देगी और जनता इन पार्टियों को उखाड़ के फेंक देगी। हम लोग कौन लोग हैं? हम लोग आम लोग हैं इस देश के। हम बहुत सामान्य लोग हैं। आप ये देखिए कि किन लोगों ने बड़े बड़े दिग्गजों को हराया है। राखी बिरला एक छोटी सी लड़की है, 2 साल की है, 2 साल की है, 2 साल की है। 2 साल की है, 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 2 एक सामान्य सी पत्रकार थी, उसने राजकुमार चौहान जैसे बड़े दिग्गज को हराया है। अखिलेश त्रिपाठी, एक सामान्य से लड़का सिविल सर्विसेज देने के लिए दिल्ली आया था और उसने मॉडल टाउन में इतने बड़े दिग्गज को हराया है। कमांडो सुरेंद्र।
Well, that's the victorious Arvind Kejriwal. The giant slayer defeated Sheila Dikshit in the New Delhi constituency very, very comprehensively. The Aam Aadmi Party has really been the story as far as this election is concerned. Most polls were giving it anywhere between 5 and 21, and the Aam Aadmi Party has given the BJP a tough fight as far as Delhi is concerned. On that note, we are going to take a quick break, but come back to us on CNBC TV 18. Election exchange will continue. We are decoding the implications of this electoral result on the markets and the economy. We'll be back in a moment.